So today I want to talk about a problem that I see very, very frequently in all of my clinics, and it's a skin condition that seems to really impact people's self-esteem and their sense of well-being. And in the more serious level, it can lead to people feeling quite anxious and depressed about their skin. So that problem is rosacea, and sometimes people are a little bit confused as to what rosacea is. There's obviously lots of levels of rosacea, but in really simple terms, if you've got persistent redness of your cheeks or nose or chin and forehead, usually always the cheeks and nose, but sometimes the chin and forehead are also involved, then I think it's worth pursuing and seeing whether you actually have rosacea. And that persistent erythema can actually be uncomfortable at times. You can end up with lots of broken blood vessels on your face that are perhaps make you self-conscious. Some people will also have pustules, which are like little pussy spots on their face. And some people will also have sort of papules, which are sort of little lumps or spots under the skin that don't really come into a head, but can be quite uncomfortable as well. With rosacea, you can have a type of rosacea that's also impacting your eyes. And sometimes I see patients, they've got very red, dry eyes. They tend to have a propensity to getting styes around their eyes. And that actually can also be related to them having rosacea. And what I find is that people with rosacea, particularly on that moderate to severe end, are often spending a lot of time and effort researching their skin, buying a lot of skincare products, and trying lots of different thick creams to try and hide or disguise their makeup, often using camouflage creams under thick foundations. And often people really feel absolutely at the end of their tether. If you have a little look at your family members, if you've got rosacea, you'll often find that either your mum or dad or your grandparents or an auntie or someone has a very similar condition. And we know that rosacea has a strong genetic element to it. We know that rosacea is actually what's called a multifactorial disorder, in that there seems to be a lot of different things at play. We know that people of Celtic origin, like myself, or people of Northern European descent, seem to be much more likely to have rosacea. However, what I will say is that darker skinned individuals can also have rosacea, and it may well be that just some of the symptoms are not as readily visible on their faces, and therefore at times we may have underestimated how many of them actually have rosacea. Rosacea commonly occurs around the ages of 30 to 50, but there are definitely lots of patients of mine who are a lot younger than that when they first develop symptoms. And I have some patients who'll even show me photos of themselves as a preteen or teenager who already were developing those very red, flushed cheeks. One of the other things that people with rosacea often complain about is that they tend to flush and get very embarrassed easily, and that leads to a bit of a vicious circle. So they're already feeling a bit self-conscious about their red cheeks, and then someone says something, or they're feeling nervous or anxious, and they'll get a full flush of their face, neck, chest, and it all looks very, very red, and that leads to people feeling quite embarrassed in social situations. Now, there's lots of research going on to try and understand what is at the bottom of rosacea and what the causes are. And because quite a substantial number of people actually have the condition, depending on the population you look at, it's anything from 5 to about 12% of the population struggle with rosacea. So that's a very sizable number of people. And what we know, as I said earlier, is there is a strong genetic element, and we're trying to understand why that is. But we know that there seems to be some type of immune dysregulation. There seems to be inflammatory pathways involved, and there also seems to be this real genetic susceptibility that's passed through families. Whenever I approach someone with rosacea, obviously I like to do it with lots of compassion and understanding, and I think I can do that, especially because I personally have rosacea as well, and I can understand how challenging it can be. We do need to come at rosacea with lots of changes in lifestyle, because unfortunately we know things like lots of sunlight make it worse. So a physical sunscreen with some zinc in it and a hat are definitely a must. We know that alcohol seems to make it worse, and for a lot of people, red wine specifically seems to make it worse. And we also know that certain foods, specifically spicy foods, seem to be really challenging. So foods with like lots of chili and things in it are going to make your skin flush. Also find that people with rosacea have a very barrier impaired skin, and therefore they will often complain that lots of things make their skin sensitive or sore. So they are often quite frightened of trying new skin products because they know that things are going to flare their skin up. And that's because the skin barrier is not functioning like we'd like it to. In the approach to rosacea, as I said, we talk a lot about what you can do at home, and then we have to think about things that we might have to prescribe for you for rosacea. We know that there seems to be an immune linkage where you get this immune activation in the skin. It is quite a complicated phenomenon, so I'm not going to get into too many details, but basically we have various bacteria and organisms that live in our skin, including something called the dermadex mite, and we know that there seems to be an increased sensitivity and population on patients who have rosacea. So some of the treatments that we use for rosacea include oral or topical antibiotics and topical treatments such as ivermectin, which is basically an antiparasitic that can be used on the skin to reduce the severity of rosacea. However, there's no creams or lotions or potions that are actually going to reverse all those little broken blood vessels that you have on your cheeks. And that has to be approached using a specific type of laser. And I have to say, it can be really, really satisfying to treat and get people some control of their rosacea. I do always tell patients that at this stage, unfortunately, while the research continues, there is no cure for the rosacea, and I definitely can't cure it for them, but what we can do is get a little bit of control back under the skin, and that feels extremely satisfying for anyone with rosacea because they feel that their skin is quite out of control, and they feel often quite depressed and distressed that no matter what they try, things just seem to be getting worse. So I hope this video today has been helpful. Hopefully some people maybe are recognizing some of the symptoms in themselves. You don't have to persevere. It's definitely something that can be managed, and I can almost guarantee you that it can look a lot better than it does right now. You just need to obviously find someone who can guide you and support you in making the lifestyle changes that you need to make, prescribe you what you need to have prescribed, and facilitate whatever laser treatments or whatever may be beneficial for you. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare, or other professional advice. Information is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you have any health concerns, always consult your doctor.